What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Gamecast. I am your host, Kenny, or one of your hosts, and with me is Tess.
Hola.
And we are back after a 2 week hiatus for several reasons. And life happens, things happen,
Yeah.
but we are back. We are back. We hopefully you didn't miss us too much. We are back with episode 77 of the Gamecast. It's always interesting when I say the number because not that I didn't think we would get to this number, but it's different when you're like, okay, in the future we're gonna get to this number, and then you actually get there and you're like, wow, that's it went really fast and really slow at the same time. It's interesting, but yeah, we've recorded 76. This is the 77th episode, and we have more dope content to talk about. But before we do that, we do want to talk about what we've been doing these past 2 weeks, typically like we do whenever we start the show. And for me, it has been all over the place, I guess. Like I've just
hmm
been up and down in a crazy, crazy way. I've been watching Peacemaker, we're going to talk a little bit about later in the show. I've also been playing a lot of Pokemon Legends, and don't want to play it anymore. Let me explain why. First of all, Pokemon Legends Arceus or Arceus is actually a pretty good game. New Pokemon game on the Switch. Definitely go check it out if you're into Pokemon. It's one of the first open world Pokemon, aside from I think there was an MMO or something, or maybe a fan made MMO, but this is the first one where you can kind of walk around. You can throw Pokeballs at the Pokemon who are just there. They don't like pop up like the RPG one on Game Boy. And they can also attack you. Like you could just be walking, minding your business, and a Snorlax can knock you off your feet. It's pretty cool in that regard, but it's the buzz. Like it's sold really well, and everyone's going crazy for it. And I was assigned. Let me re-say that. I accepted an assignment on some Mission Impossible ish to do a encyclopedia for the game. I'm writing a encyclopedia, so I'm contributing to a wiki, and I didn't quite know what I was getting into when I accepted it. And yeah, I didn't realize there was crafting, and that's on my fault. That's on me. I knew about the game, I knew it was coming out, and I knew most of about it, but I didn't know there was crafting. And why that's a big deal is that when you craft things, or I should say, when I thought I was going to be doing the encyclopedia for all the items, I thought I was going to be talking about pokeballs, talk about the candy that you get to level them up, like stuff from the older games. So I'm like,
hmm
oh, that's not a whole lot. Plus, I already know most of it, since I have some type of familiarity that I can't talk. I have played the games before, and so I was like, cool, I can do this. And then I found out that they're going to be crafting. There's crafting, and that added a whole list of items that I need to write about, from different berries to you know different plants and whatnot, and you get them together and then you make a new item, and then that item has to be categorized and all this other stuff. So it's been a lot of work, like a lot of work. I've beaten the game, and I'm still playing because I have to find, as all the items in the game, and it is very stressful and like something I never ever 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 want to do again. uh so this is
Doesn't
a
sound
one-time
fun.
thing. Oh, what'd you say?
I said that doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't. um and to be quite honest, they don't pay well enough to do this type of work. No,
Ooh.
no site does. I am convinced no site pays enough for this type of
No.
stuff.
No
I
tea, no
really,
shade.
yeah, I really hope that everyone appreciates the information when you go searching for, that item that you're looking for that you can't find, or,
hmm
that recipe that you can't find, because it takes a lot of work to categorize and put all these things in nice little graphs and such for you. And yeah, it's rough. I had anxiety beforehand because we didn't get the game early. Nintendo doesn't really send a ton of games out early. That's just how they've always been. So the publication that I'm writing for actually got a copy for review, and then I believe they got another copy to kind of help the guide team. And being a part of that team, freelancing, it was like, we all can't share the game because, it's
Mhm.
COVID and we're not in the office or anything like that. So
Mhm.
we, end up buying the game when it came out. But that meant that we had to kind of start our process after the fact as opposed to doing it way ahead of time. And
Mhm.
so if, in video games or just with anything, when something comes out, the most views you get is kind of like that first week. And so you kind of want as much up as possible. And so that was a whole ordeal just trying to get things up and so people can, come and check it out. And still working on it and it's been one of those things where it's good for like a checkpoint on my resume like I've done
Mhm.
this thing too, but
Mhm.
I'm never doing this again. I will I promise you. I promise you, I will never be doing anything like this again. But yeah, the game itself is great. Go check it out if you're a big fan of Pokemon. It's one of the better ones that I've played, I think. Just with how they're trying new things. And that's usually you don't see that. It's kind of like Dynasty Warriors. You don't really see that.
Mhm.
And when you do see something new, it's usually bad. But in this
Mhm.
case, not so much. The other thing I've been doing or not doing or dealing with is
Not
better.
doing.
Right. I haven't been doing certain things. And as due to and one of the reasons we didn't record was because I was having dizzy spells.
Like me.
Yes, twinsies. I
Yay.
wasn't didn't we don't know why. I talked to nutritionists and they were thinking like, well, maybe your sodium levels are low, which is wild for me, the black man, to hear that my sodium is too low.
Yeah,
That's
that's not a
typically
real
not what
thing.
you hear.
It's
Right.
not a thing.
That's it's not a thing, right? But you do need sodium. You do need sodium to be healthy. Just like you need fat and other things. You just need it in a limited amount to be
Mhm.
healthy. And they were saying that that could be it because I'm not. They're like you're not dehydrated. They ran blood tests and everything. They're not dehydrated, but they were like, it could be that your sodium is low. And I got the I recently got the labs back, and it doesn't seem to be the case. So I have no idea what that was about. But I want to say that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I was like mad dizzy to the point of like I had to stop working. I had to stop doing. If I was sitting, I was okay, but like standing and trying to like teach and stuff like that, it just was not working out. I started to feel nauseous and I was like, what is this? And I thought maybe it was the anxiety. Like maybe I
Mhm.
like stressed myself into having vertigo or something. And I'm like, how does that even happen? Like I've
It
been
does it
the
that
amount. Say it again.
said, "No, that's not how it works."
I
The
you know when
vertigo
you go on
part.
you know
The
how you go to
vertigo.
internet and they're like you're like I have the sniffles and they're like you have Ebola. You're like I have
Yeah.
Ebola. Like
Yes.
it's like that's not how it works. But so it's like at the very least with the sodium thing, I was like, you know what? If that's the case, at least I know based
Yeah.
on my diet. I've been eating healthier and I'm like, I need to add more salt somewhere. And it could be natural. It doesn't have to necessarily. I don't have to like take salt to my food necessarily. But if that's not the case, I'm like, what was happening? The last few days have been kind of good. I haven't had there was like a lingering effect. Like I worked out and then upon like let's say I did push-ups and I got up, I was a little dizzy, but then I was okay after that. So it's still happening, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. So I'm gonna talk to my doctor when we do finally meet, and kind of see what's going on there outside of like the blood work and everything. And there's also a lot of it's a chart with like a lot of like information that I don't understand. So it might be something else there. But as far as like things I could understand, like my cholesterol and sodium levels and lipids and proteins and stuff like that, all that seemed fine. So yeah, mystery. I don't know, but
I know.
that has been my week. That and also watching Attack on Titan, which we won't talk about because Tess hasn't been watching. We will be talking extensively about it because we always talk about Attack on Titan, and this is the final
See,
season or the final half of the final season,
finally. What
and
kind of
it's
nonsense is this?
it's really out there and good in weird ways. They're playing for keeps, which makes sense because it's the final season.
Mm.
But things are happening that I didn't expect. And mind you, I haven't read the manga, so there's that. But there are things that are happening where I was like, oh no, you cannot end you just ended the episode that way, didn't you? Okay,
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
you know, like just mad cliffhangers hit left and right. But it seems like it's actually going to end, which is good, and we might get some closure. There's some things that have been revealed that are very interesting, and so I'm looking forward to kind of finishing it finally. Oh, and another thing, since we're talking about finals, I'm just gonna throw this in real quick. I'm not a fan with how AMC is treating the Walking Dead last season. When they went off of air earlier, later last year, I thought they were just gonna do, you know, season, and then like they're gonna split it in half, and do the other half. Like they've been doing all their other shows, like Breaking Bad. Like they'll have a mid-season break, and it's to drive the numbers. This season has three different breaks. There's, I think, over 25 episodes. Why?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Like, why? I mean, there's not even. I get it that they're going to be rolling into. I know there's going to be Walking Dead films that are coming out and stuff like that, and they also have Walking Dead, spin-off shows and here and there. But I didn't expect it to be split three times. Like, just let me finish. Well, why are we? Even if it's a lot of episodes, just let us finish. Why do you have a season premiere, a season finale, a season premiere, a season finale, and like three times? Just to drive sale, or like to drive, like commercials and whatnot, or get people to resubscribe or whatever the case may be. Because those numbers are usually their biggest numbers. For whatever reason, people come back to see the premieres, but not the rest of the season. Who does that? Whatever. But those are usually how they get their biggest numbers. And so they split it into three different mini seasons. And I'm not a fan of that, because we're not going to get the final until next year, I think, sometime. And I just wanted to be, at this point, I wanted to be over. Like, I'm invested enough to care about it, but not invested enough for this to go on forever in a freaking day. Like, the comic is done, even. Just, come on, people. Come
I
on.
was
But
so mad at the nails of what's her face and what season. Like, I don't know, too. It was like, why are your nails so nice?
Oh my gosh. And the lawns were all cut.
So
Like,
what the heck is this?
Yeah, they've improved since. Yeah, season 2 was so bad. Was so bad. Like, fam, I didn't think they were gonna recover. And to their credit, the season before this one was really good. Like, one of their best seasons, I think. Solid acting, visually it was really good, and then they also had nod to other like zombie media, which I liked really well. And they also had a kind of like a, I don't know, like not a prequel, but like there was extra episodes that they added at the end of the season that kind of flashed back or showed you flashes of Negan's life before the fall of everyone, and how he was, the type of person that he was. And it
Yeah.
kind of sheds light on who he is now and why he was beating people in the head with a bat.
Yeah.
And it was done really well. Like, I was
Negan is
surprised.
freaking. It's not that I like Negan. What I'm saying is that I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So
Oh, he's great. He's solid.
yeah,
He's a
he's
solid
just
actor.
I was surprised when Sam Morton showed up on the show, and I was like, "Y'all done got one of my favorite British actresses on here. Y'all got Samantha Morton. Okay, maybe I'll watch." But then again, I just didn't, because I really don't like The Walking Dead.
I'm not mad at it.
I don't hate why. Like, I want people to understand. I don't hate Walking Dead. I'm just not into it enough to actually fall. Like, I'll let somebody else tell me what's going on it, because there were so many gaffes that the show made that I couldn't take the show seriously. So I was just like, I'm not going to let myself get into this. I was
I'm
just
telling you, season two was just dirty and dry and ashy for no freaking reason. Like, it was just bad all the way around.
So I caught up on Wikipedia.
Right. Which, hey, solid. That's one, because I typically don't do that. I have a hard time skipping episodes and stuff, even though if it's like was it filler and whatnot. I feel like I'm gonna miss something vital, and so I have to watch it. But this is one season where I'm like, you can skip, go straight to 3. Just read a wiki, straight to 3. You won't lose your mind. Trust me. Trust me. It was is abysmal. Outside of 2 episodes, it was really bad. Just really, really bad. But that was my week, or 2 weeks. How's your week been? or 2 weeks?
So a few things. It was so funny when you had told me that you weren't feeling well. I wasn't feeling well either, but like I'm always not feeling well, so I just like literally will fight with myself and be like, "Yay, we're gonna record," because I'm almost always not well. And when you weren't feeling well, I was actually having the same dizziness. Clearly, either something was going around the world, or we just had different. Because I actually was sick the whole weekend as well. And to the point where I'd even forgotten that we said we were going to catch up on Friday because I didn't even feel well.
Yeah, it was
So,
rough.
it was the same for me, but that's just how I always am. So I don't necessarily have to tell people that I'm sick because I mean, people at this point just assume I am. So anyway, so there was that. There was that. And then I did go back to work, like I mentioned, but just part-time, like just not even what am I doing? Like 9 hours a week or whatever, 12 hours. Oh, 12 hours a week. Yeah.
Baby
And
steps.
yeah, baby steps, and that was the point. But even so, like I know that I had mentioned this before, and this is clearly one of the reasons why we didn't record for such a long like we were not consistent last year in the sense that I mean, I was ill from the end of May through the rest of the year. We were spotty because I wasn't well. And and I'm, still not well all the time. And so I have the same issues when it comes to working.
Right.
And, even, like, like, I don't know if I mentioned this on the cast, but, like, my screen goes black. Like, unless we need to do something on the computer, my screen goes black. And if it's on, I have a tendency to look at the floor. Like, I do things to not extend the computer light to my eyes. And
Right.
and I and so with working, I have to sit at my desk for 4 hours and, like, have the computer lights and be looking at spreadsheets and stuff that actually makes me nauseous.
That's
And
rough.
so it is rough. It's actually rough going back to work, and people are, "Oh, you get to work from home, you're only working a few hours a day," and I'm like, "Yeah, but within 5 minutes of working, I don't feel well." And then I have to maintain that, and of course, I take breaks, like, I'm like, "Okay, this is making me nauseous, I'm gonna get up." And it's not just nausea, it's, like, attention issues, all that kinda stuff that goes with post-concussive disorder, and so, yeah, it's not been the best experience for me, like, I'm not sitting there like, "Yay, I'm so gung ho, work is amazing." No, it's not, it's actually trash,
What?
but it's it's actually trash, so there.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, it would have been trash regardless. The
Yeah,
only plus was being at home, but
yeah,
it's nausea, and it's something that even before my issue, this past week or whatever, a few weeks, like you can't do a whole lot when you're nauseous. It's just
yeah,
very hard to function.
yeah,
Trying to talk to someone. Like I was in the middle of teaching my oldest, going over some of her math problems or whatever, and like
yeah,
I felt it hit hard, and I was like,
yeah,
I just stopped, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm gonna go over here for a
yeah,
sec."
yeah, to do that. Yeah. That's how it is, and it's like, okay, well, luckily I have all kinds of anti-nausea medicine. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this. But that's another thing, when doctors are like, "Oh, here's medicine so that you can do your job," and I'm like, "So you're giving me drugs so that I can do my job. The drugs make me fall asleep, or the drug
uh,
makes me feel weird. Like I have migraine medication that gives me side effects and makes me feel like I can't breathe, and that's a horrible feeling. So
right.
like, think about that, and then I'm gonna have to go take this after we're done recording. So it's not much to look forward to. But but anyway, other things that I did, either when I was not asleep or actually a few weeks ago, and I didn't mention this, but yeah, I caught up on some stuff. So I watched Wheel of Time because I wanted to I wanted to see how bad it actually was, since people were like, this was a failure. And I was like, let me watch this show. And I'm like, okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And um, what else did I do that was of any? I don't think I did anything else of consequence except that I baked some bread for the thing.
Okay.
I haven't baked bread in like in a couple years, actually, like 3 years. So I just baked 2 loaves of bread, um, because the first one I didn't think came out right, so I just made a second. The
Right.
second
That's how you
one,
do it.
that's how you do it. The second one tasted so good. I'll send you a picture. Um,
Word.
as I was actually really proud of myself on the second one. I made this bread that I saw on YouTube, and it actually turned out really well on the second try. The first try, I don't know what I was doing. I actually just don't. And if you asked me to tell you, I couldn't answer because I just don't know what happened. I don't have the same like motor skills that I used to have before my concussion. I'm so serious. Like it's all everything is changed. Oh God, it's so sad. But yeah, I'm sitting here like, like, why can't my brain roll this dough in a circle? Whatever. Y'all, I've said this before. Don't get concussions, which is why if I ever had children, which clearly I'm not going to, but if I did, they're not playing football. I know you can get concussions in other ways, so go ahead and get concussions in other ways, but it won't be from football.
At the
But
very least, we saved them from football.
thank you. Okay. So there's that.
Goodness. I mean, I'm about ready to put a helmet on them as is, not even
As
with football.
you should. You should.
The way
No
they
more
be
falling down the
falling.
stairs.
I
Yeah.
swear, my youngest daughter came to me and was like, I have a bump in my head. And I was like, how'd that happen? She's like, I don't know. And I was like, but what? So then she's like telling me all these stories about how she could have hit her head. And I'm like, just stop.
That's horrifying.
Cause she was like, it wasn't when I flipped off the bed. It wasn't when I'm like, what you mean? Wait, go back. You can't just slide by like that was okay. Like what you mean flipping off the bed? Well,
She
it wasn't like
said,
I was running like I did before. Wait, you were running? Where were you running to? Who were
she
you
said
running
it
from?
wasn't that triple axel she did when she was trying to imitate
Right.
the ice skaters. She said it wasn't when she did that double flip off of the tree because she was trying to be the goat. Like
Right. Like freaking
she's trying to be
Spider-Man out
Simone.
here. Daggone Gwen Stacy up here flipping
Oh
and
my
stuff. And then she was like,
goodness.
I hit my she's I was like, and I thought, I hit my head on this side, but that was from this other thing. And I was like, wait, so you hit your head more than one? Why are you just telling me this? Like it was just so like kids, man, I swear. Like they just
Oh,
don't and she's very nonchalant about all of it, unless it's something that's like really, really painful. She's very
yeah.
nonchalant. And, even when like I remember she had a what the doctors thought was like a hairline fracture,
Yeah.
very small, and she was she got casted up or whatever, and she was said it hurt because it kept slipping because her arm was so small. So they put
Mhm.
another one on, and it was kind of like nothing, like it was. You would think that nothing happened prior to that because she's still doing the same things, and I'm like, you're wearing the proof that this is not a good idea. Can you sit down somewhere?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely helmets and such. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not being able to do, your normal anything is very it's a certain stress that you don't realize like that people might have. Like when you're able to do something and then all of a sudden you aren't, but it's something that was more muscle memory or just
Mhm.
innate, an innate ability. Like no one tells you how to breathe. Like you just do that when you're born. Like you you
Mhm.
you you know what I mean. And so having breathing issues or stuff like that, where he's like, oh, this is something that I just didn't think about doing or didn't think about outside of like potentially drowning or something. You don't think about breathing. You just do it. And so if you have a problem or an issue where you just can't for whatever reason, it's like, dang, I have to think about this now. That's a whole level of I don't know. It's definitely rough. But on the bright side, you were able to bake some bread that turned out good.
Yo, I mean, it really did, and I ate all of it. I didn't share it with anyone. I mean, mostly because I don't have anybody to share it with because, it's COVID and nobody likes me. So that's just it. Like, I'm not even friends with my neighbors. That's so
Well, your
unfortunate.
neighbors are jerks though.
That is
So,
true. They were smoking weed again, and I was just like, "Y'all, can you just find another place to do this so my apartment doesn't smell like drugs?"
or
I just
open a window.
I mean, I think that's actually one of the problems when you open a window, but you don't secure the other outlet, which is the hallway. Like, I don't know, put some towels down. Like, I'm just saying, just like watch some movies or something, but for crying out loud, you got to go do this on your balcony. You guys can't be just flushing up my whole home. My dog is
Dang.
really happy. She's tripping because of this. Like, I don't need her to trip because she's already out, kind of out of control.
Plus, with
So
the medications you're taking, you do not need you do not need to get high while trying to take these medications.
I don't need to get high on top of that. Seriously, they've already got me on other stuff. I don't need that. However, this is true, and I'm kind of mad I didn't know about this. But I learned by reading journals because you know how I like to read medical journals. I'd be doing that. They were like cannabidiol, which is CBD.
Mm.
Um, and they're like, it's actually very helpful in brain injuries. And I was like, and I didn't learn this until like 2 months ago. And I'm sitting here like, so I've been sitting here for 6 months with a broken head, and y'all telling me just now, like just now, but
Oh
like just
goodness.
now. So
See, you could have been baking edibles instead of breaking bread. See,
I'm like, wow. So anywho. Oh, but yeah, so kind of mild 2 weeks, not doing some stuff. But my brother and sister came back from Ghana, so and
that's
they no
good.
longer have COVID, which is great.
That's even better. That
It's
is
even
even better. Yeah, COVID is,
oh,
is spreading like crazy, which is why I'm not going to the movies. I need Scream to come to freaking digital so I can watch it because everyone's saying that, or at least people that I follow, are like Scream is the next Scream that came out was really good. And it's already been greenlit. The Scream 6, because it made like 100 million or something like that in the first week. They've already greenlit the next movie. So I kind of want to see it, but I'm not going near you folks. So if you could just do the digital thing, that would be great. That would be
yeah.
awesome. Speaking of digital, been watching Peacemaker via HBO Max.
Mhm.
I resubbed because of the show and a couple others. I actually really like HBO Max on the low, but I
I
don't be
love HBO
wanting
Max.
right. I just don't be wanting to subscribe to all these different places. So I do like this, a month here, a month there, and then like delete my stuff. But I was like, you know what? Peacemaker's coming back, and I'm a fan of James Gunn, so let's go ahead. And that show is hilarious. First of all, it has one of the best intros of any of these superhero whatevers. Like having the cast dance around and like a music number is pretty freaking great. I and it's such a simple, silly thing,
Mhm.
but it's way better than having the Marvel Flash with all the characters. Because and we've seen that, right? We've seen it in the films, we've seen it in the shows. They're always gonna have that Marvel with all the characters flashing. It was
Yeah.
great when it was first introduced, and when they redid it for the anniversary when the Last Avengers came out.
Mhm.
Cool, but this was actually more fun.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I mean? And it kind of sets you up for what the rest of the show is going to be like, which is bananas. John
Yeah.
Cena is way better than I thought he would be. And granted, I thought he was decent in Suicide Squad, but he's
Mhm.
really acting well here.
Yeah,
And because with wrestlers, going into acting, it's usually their charisma. They're able to deliver their lines well enough. They're able to be action heroes and whatnot because their stature, it doesn't require a lot of emotion for the most part, and they're already charismatic because they have to be in front of if they're good behind the mic, like The Rock, they're going to be charismatic, and that charisma is going to carry the role. But in this case, John Cena is doing well, like in and of itself. Like it's not
Mhm.
his wrestler persona carrying him through. He's actually funny, like
He's
really
funny as
funny.
heck.
Like all of his lines and even the I don't know if you guys have been watching if you watch past the credits, because I always do this now. I just have to. Marvel has trained me. If you watch past the credits, there's always like an extra scene that's either something that was cut or something that was a scene was extended, and so there's extra bits of him being silly afterwards. That's always great. And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect like I knew James Gunn was going to do something kind of crazy based on
Mhm,
what he did with Suicide Squad.
mhm,
And I knew he was directing. He's not the only person directing. He's written the episodes, but they have different directors. Like Jody Hill directed episode 4,
mhm.
and so they'll have different. But for the most part, it's all James Gunn's vision for the most part. Like all the episodes and whatnot kind of fit. It isn't like The Walking Dead where a new showrunner comes and it's like the whole vibe shifts. It's not like that, and I think it's better because of it. In terms of being, I don't know, well put together. And the same thing with the cast, like the people that they took from Suicide Squad, the new characters, like Danielle Brooks' character is really great. Danielle Brooks is awesome. If you don't know who she is, she's was from The Orange Is the New Black on
Mhm.
Netflix. Won several awards for just like her acting and stage and whatnot. Definitely dope. She's been on the Broadway with The Color Purple.
Mhm.
Basically, you need to know who this person is. She does a really good job as her character. Oh, and for the people who are, who do know Orange Is the New Black, her character was Tasty. If you didn't know her real name, you know how black people do. They just know they just know the whoever they acted as, right? So Tasty, that was her name. But she's on the show as well.
Mhm.
Who else is
Yeah,
on the
she
show?
was hilarious.
Yeah, she's great at like being I think the moral compass of the show.
Mhm.
Like she's kind of the heart, even though it's mainly about John Cena and this group of you know uh, operatives that are trying to save the world from aliens called the Butterflies. Hilarious. She's more of the heart of the show because there's with their line of work. You have there's people that are being killed and they have to keep everything hush hush, kind of like Mission Impossible. Like if you're caught, we don't know who you are, we don't know you exist, type of thing. But more so than just getting out of trouble, they actually have to eliminate people who might stumble onto what they're doing, for the safety of whatever. So like how they go about, you know, completing a mission or a job doesn't sit well with her. And so she kind of has to deal with all these things, these different emotions while being the newer person to this type of work. And also being kind of manipulated by her mother, Amanda Waller, who we all know is not a good person. She's not a good person at all. Or at the very least, she believes that what she's doing is important
Right.
to the point where she's willing to do whatever she has to do, and that's bad, mind you.
Right.
But
She might have a redemption arc, man. I mean, you never know.
potentially, interesting enough, Viola Davis is not in the show outside of her voice, and that could be money thing or whatever.
That's
But they haven't really
that's
shown
a
her.
money thing. That's a money thing.
Um, Potentially, I like the character Vigilante. I think he's comical. He's like a silly Punisher. Um, and like I said, I'm not gonna go too far into it because Tess hasn't seen. I think you only saw the first episode.
I saw the first, and I don't even remember where I got to the first episode because I was watching the show. Like I remember I was watching it before you had gotten a chance to watch it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so good!" And then I stopped. I don't remember what it was. I can't remember if I had I think I had a headache, but I
Mm,
remember I turned the TV off. I don't remember. I could have had to do something and whatever, but I didn't go back because I wasn't feeling well, and then I think I just needed something that was mellow and wasn't gonna make me laugh because I was crying. The fact that he was trying to get his clothes back, he was trying to sneak out of the hospital. I was like, "Are you released or are you not?" Like like he was doing so much in the first episode. He was being so ridiculous. And I'm like, "This is why you wear a toilet on your head because you are ridiculous. You're
yeah,
ridiculous." And I was just like, I need to put this on pause, which I remember I did, and I can't remember if I took a nap again. I don't remember a lot of things, but I don't remember. And then I didn't go back to it. And then instead of like going back to that, I ended up like watching stuff that I know doesn't take a lot of my attention, like the new Sex and the City, which I don't really even like, but I'm watching it just because I kind of have to now.
I didn't even know there was a new one.
Yeah. That had been in the works for a while, but without Kim Cattrall because she said she didn't want to do it. And
Oh, so they
so
brought the cast back. Oh, you know what? I did hear about that.
yeah,
Huh.
and it's I mean, I personally don't love it, but I'm watching it to get through the season, and then I'm probably not going to watch it again until it's over. Because
Word.
I just don't like I but
You try to
I
give it one season, right? You try
I
to give it like one, and then you're like,
I didn't even
eh.
wanna give it the whole season. I think it was just that I needed something in the background, and I don't have to pay that much attention to it. You know, the thing about Sex and the City is that you don't always have to have your eyes on the screen because it's narrated.
True.
It's a narrated show, so
That's
you can just
true.
listen. So, sometimes I need that because, having my eyes on the screen can be nauseating and I told you how my dizzy spells are, like, when stuff moves, then I think everything is moving, and so I
Right.
have to, like, remind myself that, no, nothing's moving, and then so anyway, yeah, so sometimes I look for stuff like that, and then, obviously, instead of continuing with Peacemaker, which would have made me laugh, I ended up watching Station 11, and that's just mind bending, and that took a lot of energy, and I was like, "Wait a minute," and then like, I was like, wait," and I think I've got all the way to the end. I think I might have 1 episode or 2 episodes left of Station 11, which is really good. It really is, and I think a lot of people would like it. I think people who like mind-bending stuff, people who liked Lost until it got bad would like it. Um, and so, yeah, and so I just ended up not going back to Peacemaker, which is, like, ridiculous because I need humor in my life. But I have a
They are doing
tendency
a
to
good
do
job.
that sometimes. Like, oh, yeah, and there was a time where I was, like, binging Peaky Blinders,
Hmm.
and I'm like and I like Peaky Blinders, but I'm telling you, man, that 1st season of Peaky Blinders made me I literally watched episode 1 of Peaky Blinders, like, a year ago and never went back because it was so slow. I just couldn't do it. And then I finally, like, pushed myself back and you have to listen. You have to watch and listen to that show because, stuff happens, it's slow, and then, they're speaking in not speaking in tongues, they're speaking in, their Irish accents and whatnot, and you gotta, like
Oh yeah,
re
I would have to potentially add sub. Well, actually, I put subtitles on for just about anything
yeah,
nowadays because
I have subtitles on everything.
TVs are weird with like the music and explosions being super loud, but the talky
Uh-huh,
parts being super low. I don't understand what that's
uh-huh.
about. But
Yep.
but yeah, so like you didn't get to finish it and kind of went on to some other shows, some of which I'm actually going to check out myself. But I'm looking forward to when you come back to Peacemaker because we got to talk about
Yeah.
all the silliness that happens. And interesting enough, I'm glad that they are allowing James Gunn to kind of do what he's doing with it because he has changed a lot of characters.
Mhm.
And typically this happens whenever there's a live action version of whatever. We spoke about Jim Carrey's portrayal of the Riddler and how bad that was.
Yeah, that was
So
weird.
that's this type of happens, but this is a little bit like we're changing these characters. Like Vigilante isn't who he was in the comic books, but it's actually cool. Like what you've changed works out pretty well. Same thing with granted, actually, I think Peacemaker will probably be similar to how John Cena is acting if we were to look at the comics, but not everybody is the same. Like Judo Master is completely different, is more so of a villain
Mhm.
and not his superhero alter ego. And so for them to be like, all right, James, do what you do. Just do whatever you want, essentially, and make this a success was the right move because we've got some really cool stuff going on. And the fact that Peacemaker is able to speak on these things. Like in the show, they talk about a lot of DC heroes or characters, I should say, that are maybe C level, D level that a lot of people don't really know, and
Mhm.
so they will bring about this information to be kind of like for the people who are a little bit more nerdy. But then also, if you weren't into that, I can definitely see people going and being like, okay, who's this character again, and then go looking them up because it's always within a joke of something. Like
Mm-hmm.
when John Cena would talk about Matter Eater Boy and how he just eats anything, and that's an actual character, a very
Matter.
bad character,
Yeah.
but he eats anything. That's his superpower, which is a I don't know why that was a thing, but maybe they were like trying their best to be original after Superman and whatnot. He's one of the early characters, and he just eats stuff. And the line was like he got so upset at a Wendy's, I guess they forgot to give him ketchup or something that he ate the entire restaurant. I'm like, no one
Yeah.
stopped him. They just
No.
watched this happen
Yep.
because that had to be a slow process. Like he's
I would
chewing
hope
bricks
so.
and shit. Like what? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's
Well, you
like
got
I could
teeth?
just
Boy,
see.
you still got teeth?
Right, I'm just because his body allows him to absorb it. So it's like, does anybody? We're just gonna stand here and watch him eat were they still serving food while he was doing this? Like,
They
I don't.
probably were like, no. All the Wendy's employees were like, well, I'm going home.
Facts, they
You
don't get
probably
paid
had that
enough.
one. They don't get paid enough either. But you had that one person who was like, guys, trying to make sure that the fries were still coming out, and then he realized that it was it was a wrap, and he left too.
Yeah, it's like I gotta go home. I gotta go. But yeah, HBO Max. Go check out Peacemaker. It's really funny, and it's also very crass. So if you're
Yeah,
not
it is.
into that type of comedy, actually still go see it because it's not the comedy isn't necessarily wrapped up in its being crass. It's how certain characters are, and so what like for instance, John Cena's funny or his character Peacemaker is funny because he doesn't understand just basic human interaction, like how to interact with people, and
Nope.
so his idea of good interactions is just being a bully, being a jerk, and so he'll say something that's really crass, and the surface level is like, okay, that's kind of mean or that's kind of like that's not really funny. But when you go underneath that and they start to kind of question it, he's like, oh, I thought I was giving you a compliment, like talking about your breast. That's not how we do this. That's not how we. And so
No.
that part, him learning becomes the humor. So it's not necessarily. I mean, yeah, it's very crass, but it's not. That's not what the humor hinges on. So,
Right.
I would definitely check it out. And again, it's on HBO Max. If you're subscribing anyways, why not? Why not? We will be talking a
Right.
little bit more in depth about that in the coming weeks as the season rolls on. I believe, yeah, episode 6 dropped tonight. So I'm going to be checking that out.
Hmm.
Other thing we wanted to talk about was,
The Olympics.
well,
we're not
yeah.
we're not talking about the Olympics, but they are.
I was like, that is not in my notes. Hold up.
We're not. But the Olympics are on. So yay, go Team USA.
I am, gosh, the Olympics has like dropped so far below. At least I know the Winter Olympics was never as high as like the other Olympics, but like it was still watched. Like I remember
I
going to
love the Olympics.
going to the laundromat and the only thing was on there was the Olympics while we would sit and wait for our clothing. So I would get into it because there's nothing else on, but then also watching track and field and stuff like that. There was some events that I really liked, and but it over the years has just gotten I go to the results now. I don't really watch. I just go like, who won? A word, we won, cool, and now
Don't
keep
even do
moving.
that. I don't, and this is coming from somebody. I used to be pressed on the Olympics. I thought I was going to be an Olympian, and I loved the Olympics, winter and summer. Track and field and swimming was my thing, and then in the winter it was
Word.
ice skating. I was all into ice skating. I was into ski jump, and I was into speed skating. Like, I was all into that. And now I don't even know the Olympics are on until they're over. I just happened to have Peacock, and I was
Yep.
watching YouTube videos, and YouTube is now basically television, and there's ads all over the place, and it's just strewn with ads of the Olympics, and I was like, and it's like watch it on Peacock. I was like, oh, Peacock, I can watch the Olympics, and I kind of just wanted to pop in and see because I don't even know anybody anymore. Like when I
Right.
was a kid, I knew every ice skater. And funny enough, as I was YouTubing, like watching YouTube, I saw um the performance from Alexia Gooden, who used to be my favorite like male skater. because I was in love with him. Let's just put it out there. And, and I was like back in the day. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is when he won gold. And I'm like, it just happened to be on YouTube. I was like, oh, this is fun. I remember watching this. I like literally remember. I think I was either I was at home or I was at school. I think no, I was in college and I was in school watching it because I think I did winter season that then, like, or I don't know, or it could have just
Oh,
been during
the
the semester.
was it winter semester?
Like winter semester, it's like 2 weeks,
The
but
breaks,
but
yeah.
also, yeah, it could have just been during regular like semester because I remember watching it because I was like, oh, I love him. But yeah, so I used to be pressed on the Olympics, and now I could give two nothings. Like, and it's not even that I just don't care, but I hadn't had TV for so long. But I will say I am kind of like against the Olympics right now. I'm against the Olympic Committee and everything because of COVID. I
Yeah, there's a lot
really
of
am.
trash stuff going on,
It's
and
so
that's
much
and that's
trash.
sad. So for me, hearing about the Olympics, it has been always negative. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when athletes don't want to, perform and they aren't feeling well, the attention and everything that they're getting, and it's not healthy, and people
Yeah.
being like, you should just suck it up because all the other people sucked it up, and it's like, fam,
No.
really.
No.
And so
No.
like, and with the guy, the tennis player who didn't want to get vaccinated, and they still allowed him to play. I believe he
He
lost though, so
like,
solid for that.
he what's his face? You talk about Djokovic.
I believe so.
Djokovic is about to, I don't know if they revoked his passport or whatever, but he might not be allowed in Australia again. And I'm like, bye, because he was rude.
Yeah, he was extra, and it was such a silly thing, such a silly thing. I mean, because to be fair, even just going to other countries, you have to get vaccines. Like, you
Yeah.
have to get stuff like beyond COVID. Like, if I wanted to go to Ghana right now, I would have to get shots.
You
There's
got to
just
get all them shots.
right. You want to live, right? Stop tripping.
Stop tripping.
Anywho,
You got to take your malaria.
but you brought up a good point though. Like, TV, not having cable for so long,
Yeah.
a lot of things that I was like staples for me aren't, and it's not necessarily that the quality has changed, or my thinking of the quality has changed to the point where I wouldn't go search, but it's been so long that I don't care to. Like, I used to watch WCW, WWE. I used to watch all the wrestling all the time, and I got to college and I watched it a little bit in college. My wife, your cousin, kind of got into it, and at a certain point I didn't have cable anymore. We just didn't have, like, especially when
Yeah.
we after we got married and whatnot. We were like, "Hey, cable is not really needed. We don't have money like that. You know what I'm saying?" And
Mhm.
so it was like, we don't need it. So then I didn't watch. Like, I might have heard something on, saw something on YouTube, like, someone got hurt, or there was like a big match or something, or I went over a friend's house. I was invited to watch like WrestleMania, but I haven't watched it consistently. And because of that, there's so many new faces that I just don't know. And I'm okay. Like, I have no desire to really jump back in. I might peek here and there, but I don't really have a desire. And it's interesting how things change when you aren't, I don't want to say privy, but when you don't have access to it for
Yeah.
whatever reason, you kind of meander over to things that you can watch. And so for us, it's been streaming stuff for the most part. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the Winter Olympics. I'm like, I heard about it, Peacock. I kept seeing, I kept getting the emails because they want me to sign up, and so they're
Mhm.
like, oh, guess what? The new Fresh Prince show, which I'm definitely gonna watch because I need to talk about that. But yeah, they're like the new Fresh Prince show that's coming out, and then the Olympics to kind of get me back to subscribe. I might, because they kind of cheap, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm
I
not
have
gonna
Peacock
watch
for
the
free.
Olympics. Oh, that's solid. That's even better.
Yeah, because I have Comcast, so
Oh,
yeah, because it came free with my internet.
see, okay, that's
Yeah.
what's up. So yeah, so beyond that, yeah, Winter Olympics was not on the docket, but what was on the docket was the upcoming show, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power,
Hmm.
via Amazon Prime, and we
Yeah.
had we had a brief discussion off air about this show, and I wanted to talk about it because we actually have, well, I don't want to say different views on it. I think our views actually align, but I think where we
Mhm.
kind of stand you know, whether towards one either side or in the middle is a little different. And so kind of want to
Can
talk about it a little bit.
can I start though? Because
You can.
the reason why this is important to me, because I'm gonna start off like this. People out here are racist, okay? People are so racist.
We're
And
choosing violence
this because
early.
I I've been minding my business watching this wonderful dude on the YouTube's name Rainbow Days. And I've been like listening to his like Silmarillion videos and stuff because I'm just gonna say this. I know I'm a boring person, but I like the Silmarillion the best. Like that was always my favorite. Not because the Silmarillion is a really boring book. Everybody should know who if you have not read it, the Silmarillion is boring as crap. But
Right.
I liked it because it read like the Bible. And I'm not gonna sit here and say like I like the Bible. The thing is, because I mean, I honestly it's just the Bible. But like as a from a scriptural standpoint, from a religious standpoint, people revere the Bible. They're like, this is our religious text. But for me, the way that I was actually able to get through the Bible was looking at it as literature. And I remember
Right.
doing that and actually made the Bible so much easier to read when I looked at it as a piece of literature and not as a religious text. Religious text, it's boring, and I really didn't have interest in it, except Revelation. That was the only thing I was interested in when I was a kid. Weirdo. But my point is that
No,
I
it's kind of
like,
normal.
yeah, yeah. But I like literature. I've always enjoyed literature. And so when I read the Silmarillion, I was so happy to learn so much stuff. And I love the elves, and so I was always like into them. And so I really enjoyed it. And also enjoyed The Hobbit way more than I like Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit was such a fun book. Like I just loved The Hobbit. But I also love Lord of the Rings. So the point is I loved all three of those books. I unfortunately never got to read any of the other works. So it was kind of nice me randomly stumbling onto this guy's page a week ago or so and seeing all these videos he did like during the pandemic. And so I just was like kindly reminded of the Silmarillion and then some things that I had forgotten. And I was like, oh my God, I remember Feanor. I remember reading about him and being like, oh, what is wrong with you? and and then just like some things I forgot, like who married who and who went where. It's just stuff that I had forgotten. Remember that I like loved the Valar. I was like, oh, like who would I be most like? Would I be like Yavanna? Would I be like what? Anyway, so moving along. I've been like groovying it out with Rainbow Dave because like that's his persona. He's always like groovy this. And I've
Hmm.
been like listening to his little videos and enjoying myself. And then, because this is something I didn't know because I don't read the paper, because I've also been living under a rock for the last 10 months because, I hit my head. And
Right.
um, I just found out about the Lord of the Rings show, Ring of Power. So I was just like, wait, what? Why is this happening? Like, don't stop doing this. Okay, like no, like this is necessary. And then I find out that it's Amazon. So then I got even more mad because I was like, oh, Amazon just like destroyed the Wheel of Time. Like people love the Wheel of Time. They love those books. And Amazon just like destroyed it in one season. I don't know how you managed to convince Rosamund Pike that this was a good idea. Like I just don't understand how this happened because it is so bad. To me, it's really, really bad. It's worse because I know that they spent so much money, like 10 million per episode or something. And then that's what we got. I'm like, wow, okay, this is ridiculous. So then I'm like, what Amazon is doing Lord of the Rings? And then I hear they want it to be more like Game of Thrones and they want it to have nudity and they want to hire intimacy coaches and all this stuff. They want it to be Game of Thrones like. And I was like, ew. No. 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 Do not do that. Like literally do not do that. It's just not can you tell, is it necessary? Is it necessary? I'm going to ask you, is it necessary? And I'll continue.
I don't think so at all. I don't think so.
No, we like Game of Thrones for what it is, okay? But you don't need to have the nudity and the sex and all of that in the Lord of the Rings because it actually doesn't exist. Like we get it. Babies are made. We understand that. People have babies. We get it. It's just it's clearly implied. So like why would you then take extra steps to like be like, yeah, we just want it to be like Game of Thrones, so everybody's gonna be naked. Okay, but why? Moving
Yeah,
on.
we don't need a gritty Lord of the Rings in the in the vein of the Game of Thrones show on
No,
HBO. That's just
no,
not. I don't think anyone asked for that.
no. I mean, if they did, clearly they're
Did you not see how Game of Thrones? Anyways,
yeah,
yeah,
moving on.
keep going.
So this is why the only the reason why I actually really did want to talk about this, not even what we were talking about off air, was that um the first dissenting YouTube video that I saw in regards to this show was not simply just, oh, we don't need this. It was these people. I found multiple people online talking about, and these were white men, okay? White
Oh
men
gosh.
who were saying how they're like, oh no, the woke mob has found this show and they are trying to use politicizing. And they want to make it diverse and they want to have women have power and they want to do it. So they were going on and on. But I was like, as much as I myself, being a person who identifies as Black, um, I don't need to see my people. I don't need to see people of the global majority in Tolkien's work. I don't. Like, I'm not asking for that. And like I said, when I watched the last Hobbit movie, whatever, like again, it could Hobbit number 7, don't know what number it was, when they had that little sprinkling of there was two Asian people and a Black person who were extras, again, non-speaking role people, they were just effing extras. I was like, so you've given us like 7 of these movies and you never had anybody Black unless you wanted to count the orcs. And because you just had Black people playing them, if you even did or not, I don't know and I don't care. But my point is, I wasn't represented when we were in the Shire. I wasn't represented when we were in Rivendell. I wasn't represented when we were in Lothlorien. I was never represented then, and I don't want to see it now because I'm just like, so like literally in the last 5 minutes of the last movie, you shoved 3 Asian people and a Black person in there. Like I didn't understand the point, and I was like, this isn't. I'm actually offended. Like I don't even know why you did this because that's just dumb. So because I like I said, you could have done this a long time ago, and that never happened. So why now? And I'm not asking for this. I'm not asking for this. I am totally fine with representation in any other fantasy thing. Why? Because somebody thought of me. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't an
Right. It wasn't an
afterthought.
afterthought. Exactly.
Exactly. I feel like an afterthought. That's kind of rude. So I'm not asking for your representation here. And that's fine. That's how I personally feel. But I thought it very interesting that these white men were getting up on their pedestals and talking about that this was all woke liberal media and stuff. And they're like, oh, they're trying to diversify this, and it was never diverse. They're going through the history and all this stuff about there's no,
Right.
there are no other people except what Tolkien had envisioned. And, in a sense, I'm like, well, you're not wrong because Tolkien he clearly did not, and he had all the opportunities he could have included people who were not white, but he did not. Even in all of the
Right.
races that he made all he I mean basically it kind of invented and I don't the point is Tolkien had a lot of influence in his work from his own heritage, Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, Norse, Celtic. That's
Right.
where his influence comes from, and he was very specific in being like non-Norman. He had said that publicly, that he didn't like the Norman invasion of England, and like England's culture was destroyed because of the Norman invasion. Like those are things that he said. So he prides his English culture and whatnot. And he took all of this information from Anglo-Saxon and Norse history and all that kind of stuff. And he created this whole world, which was based on the languages he created because he was a professor. Like, I understand that. I do. And that's fine. And then he created a world of people who looked like him. He literally did not even make a world of people that did not look like you. Like he didn't do that. He did not. In the world in which he lived, in which there were Black people, in which there were Asian people, in which there were South Asian people, in which there were Native Americans, Native Inuit people, whatever. He did not include those people in his story. He did not include people who looked like them in his story. He did not. That's on him, right? That's on him as the creator. I just thought it was crazy that these people on the internet was going off, and these were white men, okay? White men who were so upset at the diversification, and they were going on and on and on about how, you know, we don't need this, and how that the literal text of the explanation of the hobbits, like there were hobbits who were darker skinned. Like there's some descriptions that Tolkien used about some of the hobbits. Now, oh, you know, the Harfoots were darker, and this, that, and the other, da da da. And so they're like, oh, you know, Amazon is using this to make Black hobbits. And so they're really upset. They're really, really upset. And so I'm laughing in a way because I'm just like, don't say that online. That's just how I feel. I'm like, see, it sounds really bad when it's coming from you, but me as a Black person, I'm just saying that I don't need to be represented in this. I'm not looking for it in this. I'm happy to see it in other works. I am. I'm totally happy to see it. But I'm not looking for it in Tolkien's works because I feel like he had all of the opportunity and he didn't do it. And I even think that Peter Jackson had the opportunity to do it and he didn't do it. And so when we have like were there 4 Hobbit movies or 3?
I think there's 3.
Okay, some reason I felt like there was 4. You know how they want to do 9 Harry Potter, like 11 Harry Potters, or like 16 Harry Potters. I'm like, how do we get? Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's because it's similar to how I feel when it comes to like they were talking about. We talked about this previously about the Black Superman movie and how I was like, if it's not the actual Black Superman, from the different dimension or universe or whatever. In the DC, world, then I don't want it. And because it's always something that is done to appease a bunch of people, and then it's reverted. And honestly, a lot of it is done. Some of it is done intentionally. Some of it is done based on just how their, I don't know, comic rules go. Like if you want to keep selling Batman, you have to keep restarting Batman. If you want to keep selling Spider-Man, you have to keep restarting him. It's the reason why Peter Parker has gone all around the world and done all these crazy things, and he is still poor. He used to be mad rich, was like the new Tony Stark, and then his entire world crumbled, and now he's back into being, he's not at the newspaper anymore, but he's essentially in a similar role where he's like an assistant to a professor, Doc Connors, and he is, trying to get his degree back because there's a whole bunch of, it's a long story, but essentially he was reset. There were some things that stayed, but a lot of things changed. And because of that, when you don't have a character that is uniquely Black or uniquely whatever, or was written to be a certain way, they always revert back. And when that happens, it's like, either for 2 things. It's like, okay, we gave you what you wanted, it didn't sell, and we can see why it doesn't sell. 1, people felt like they're being tokenized, and 2, all the white people, like you said, online who are upset about it won't buy it. So you're alienating fans. You're not giving us what we want, and you're doing it to justify not changing it again because you can say, well, we tried, and it didn't work out. Marvel has done this, 5 or 6 years ago, and blamed sales. And I'm like, no, you did some some silly stuff,
Yeah.
And this is what happens. I was about to say something else, but you did some goofy stuff, right? And so it's like make a character. Like we have Miles Morales, and it's like okay, cool. Bendis made a new Spider-Man
Hmm.
character that exists in the same world as Peter Parker. Okay, now we're
Hmm.
talking because
Yeah.
now we have someone who can have their own separate story that isn't someone that's going to be altered or changed back to Peter Parker at some later
Yeah.
point when you want to make more money or whatever the case may be. We just have this character. Flat, jumping over to the Lord of the Rings, it's like, well, Tolkien's never done this. Peter Jackson hasn't done this. No one's done this. Are you doing this just to hit some points to get more people to watch? Like what? Why? What is your the decision process? How did this come about? My only difference in that, I think, is the idea that I have that just because something wasn't done previously doesn't mean it can't be done later. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is like, you know, I won't even say that Tolkien did a bad thing by creating this world full of white people. If I was writing a book, I wouldn't do this. But if I made a book about all black people, it would be kind of understandable
Hmm.
because we don't really see ourselves and what I'm saying. So I can't 100% say like, oh, Tolkien, you jerk. But at the same time, when it came to the films, when it came to doing whatever, it's like we could have put these things in
Hmm. They
and it
could
could
have.
have been really cool. And one example is The Witcher. No one talked about it. No one said anything about it in terms of before The Witcher came out. But The Witcher doesn't have any black people in the game. It doesn't have any black people in the books. But when the
Hmm.
show came out, there were black elves, and it was accepted, and or at least from the more sane people around the globe, it was
Hmm.
accepted because it was a starting point for The Witcher in terms of like having a live action whatever,
Hmm.
and it was done in a way that was like, no, these characters actually have speaking roles. They are they're treated as if they're just normal elves or normal people within this
Hmm.
world, and it wasn't a big production to say, oh, at least I didn't see where they're like, oh, we got black people, yay. You know what I'm saying? It was just we just did it and it worked out.
And it worked.
And so in this case, because we haven't seen anything. They just released posters with just people's hands,
Hmm.
apparently, to show that they're showing our diverse hands, if you will.
Right.
And my only thing is like I because I agree with your sentiment. My only hesitancy in terms of tossing this to the side is this a start? Is this something where we're like, you know what? We think this could be better for these reasons. Let's
Hmm.
do this. I don't think the promoting it as going to be diverse is necessarily needed, but like let's just do this. So these black hobbits or black people, elves or whatever the case may be, have speaking roles. They have big roles. They move the story. We're changing it. We're not going to keep it the same way the books are. We're done. This is Amazon's Lord of the
Hmm.
Rings. If that's the case, I am cool with it.
Hmm.
I'm not cool with it though if we're just doing this for brownie points and then mid season all the black people disappear like or what I'm saying, like it's just like yeah we got you in here but now that you're here
Oh,
are the real characters. Like I
no,
don't
they
want that. You know what I'm
hmm.
saying? So that's why I'm a little bit more hesitant to kind of be like screw this or whatever the case may
Hmm.
be, because I think it could be a start because you have to start somewhere. We can't go and say
Yeah.
we're never represented in these things or we're never given the opportunity. When the opportunity comes, even if it's a little shaky,
Hmm.
it's like, all right, let's build off of this then.
Hmm.
And we can't do that if we shut it down before we actually see it. And I mean, we don't know who are, and except for two actors, we know who they are, but everybody else, we just know the names. Like we know who they're, who the people are that are going to be in the show, but we don't know who they're playing because they're being really secretive with the promotions and all the other stuff.
They
So we don't
should.
know, you
They
know.
should, so it doesn't get torn apart by all the. It's. I mean, honestly, the YouTubers that are out here are just like they're so annoying. These people are actually like really annoying.
Right.
And Screen Rant, you're one of them. But like,
Oh my
they're
gosh.
just had to say it. I just had to say, I'm sorry. I feel like I literally love pitch meetings, but I'm sorry, man. Screen Rant, y'all annoy the crap out of me. So moving on.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but like it's like you just give fuel to the YouTubers and those channels that always want to do like, ooh, like freaking Miss Mojo. I hate that channel. But like, oh, these are the things you should look for, and it's just shut up. But that would be so funny if they ever like once mentioned us and be like, well, we don't like the Gamecast. I'm like, oh, you listen to us? It's so nice. But yeah, it's just like it just gives them more like these people more fuel to kind of just talk about nothing. They don't know anything. Like the only thing you know is like what's his face. Like they literally was like, yay, we're gonna have black hobbits. I'm a black hobbit. Like you just know some of the stuff that some people have said who are actually on the show.
Right.
Like and that's really it. And it's just like, okay, I'm not really excited about that. But again, yes, you're right about if this is a start. So if this is like a remake, like let's start here and then we're going to move forward and we're going to do this the diverse way, the way the world should be. Because, excuse me, at the end of the day, like Tolkien, white British man, this is his fantasy world, right? His fantasy world did not include anyone who wasn't white, and he literally made it that way. Now, if you're going to do a reimagining, which is I love reimaginings are great, and where you kind of change things and fix things to make it more to work for the world that we live in, I also think that is fine, and I would support that. And I would support that, especially if it means that we're going to continue, like, get more of it. Mind you, like, Lord of the Rings only came out 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's not that it was that long ago, but if the intention is 10 years from now to do a new Lord of the Rings with all the money that Amazon has, that's fine. Because, like, I had my own issues with Lord of the Rings. I mean, unpopular opinion, but I've said it from jump. As much as I love Elijah Wood, I never liked him as Frodo. I don't. And I don't care about saying that out loud because I don't.
He had an Anakin vibe, and he kept getting stabbed. Like, learn to dodge.
Yeah. Learn to dodge, and then learn to be like Frodo of the book, who was not always this like whiny and afraid of everything, because he wasn't like that. And that's just like there's so many things about the movie. Like, again, I think Peter Jackson did one of the closest adaptations that we have of book to movie stuff, because we've seen so many other things just go way left. It's good, but I mean, I should not say good. It was great. Like, we all loved it. There were things that we wanted, that we wished that were changed, but at the end of the day, for what the Lord of the Rings gave us was great. I did not like The Hobbit. I've been vocal about that. I've said that over and over again.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
It was not a fan. It just wasn't good. What's his face? Who you got some good actors in there, okay? You got what's his face who plays Bilbo, and he's literally great. And then you hired Lee Pace, which to me was one of the best things you could have done. And I love Lee Pace. I've said this before. I love Lee Pace. That guy is awesome. He can do anything. Okay, he can do anything. And why are you so tall? Do you like the fact that he would stand next to Legolas? I don't even know how they did this with Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom's like, what, 5'10"? I don't know.
Yeah.
Lee Pace is towering over him. I don't know how they managed to do the filming, because he's a big dude. I watched the behind the scenes where they were having them fight next to each other because they both needed to learn the same like movements, like father like son. And I was, for the longest time, I didn't even realize it was Orlando Bloom in the filming. Like, I thought it was just some like a double of some sort. Like, I didn't even realize it was Orlando Bloom. That's how much smaller he is than Lee Pace. But anyway, I think Lee Pace played a brilliant Thranduil, and I loved his portrayal of him. I loved it. I loved the Sesshomaru-esque-ness of Thranduil. It was great.
Yep.
Which is said before, but again, not necessarily my point. But I hated The Hobbit. It was bad to me. But Lord of the Rings was great. It was missing certain things that we loved, and then they took liberties in certain places, and then they changed things. I mean, like, they had Aragorn feel like he was kind of like the reluctant kind of king, but he really wasn't like that in the book. You know, like there were like things and relationships that weren't necessarily like right, but that's okay because it ended up being a great movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like if this show wants to do a redo and kind of make those changes and maybe correct those things and then make it more diverse so that it can be more diverse in the future if they continue to go on and give us all of these other stories that we did not get just by watching Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, then fine, because there's over 10,000 years of lore, which is
Right.
amazing for one person to create. Like, I love the Silmarillion. It is one of my favorites. I loved all the stories that were in there. I read the book not 20 years ago. I think I read that book in 2006, and I haven't picked it up because, again, it's kind of a harder read because it's, it's not like a lot of dialogue. It's not like a lot of fun, but it's so much information. But I agree with you on that point. Like, if you're going to give us something new and you're going to move forward, then that's great. But if they're not doing that, if they're literally just going to be like, oh, we're just making a prequel and being done with it, like, well, yeah, we're going to give you a couple of thousand years in the whatever, in the first age or the second age, and we're not even going to meet up to where the fellowship starts or anything, then it's kind of like, okay, now you're just going to confuse me, or you're not just confusing me, you might be confusing everybody. And then I still would ask the questions, hey, Peter Jackson, why didn't you put any people of color? I still ask the same thing. You're a Kiwi. There's people in that movie who could have, he could have, because he could have.
He
He
could
could have.
have. Yeah. I mean, and that's, shoot, I forgot the other director who, when was asked about a lot of his movies notoriously not having black people, and I forgot his answer. It was more or less like either we couldn't find like there was just no good black talent. It was
Yeah,
something
I
along
remember
those
that
lines. Like,
comment.
yeah, it was like, it's just based on the people that we have who, going out and looking for black people could be a thing. And I'm like, really? Because there's like a lot of us that are really good at all this stuff. I
Yeah.
don't understand how we just need the opportunity. That's pretty much it. But
Mhm.
yeah, and that's, I hope, and that's why I want to watch it. I
Yeah.
want to watch it. I want to check it out. I want to see what they do, because and knowing Amazon, they want this to be like you were saying, Game of Thrones. They're gonna want several seasons. They're gonna want, you know spin-offs if it does well enough, right? So if they have a diverse cast and this is good, I can definitely see them doing that. But
I
it's
better make the Valar black.
right.
I'm like, okay, wait, you put black people. I don't want just black hobbits. Okay. We like hobbits, but that's not my people. I like the elves. I like the Valar. So we gonna talk about the Valar, then this is what you need to do. Because these, like, if we're talking about, if anybody knows the history of the freaking world of the Silmarillion, then you need to understand there was God, and then there was some other gods, and then there was the elves because they woke up one day when what's her face put stars in the sky to fight off the Dark Lord. So we already know that the first people that came on this planet they came out of the dirt, which is brown. Let's just be real here. Okay, so I'm just saying you kind of had some missed opportunities here of like this earth was created. You know what I mean? Like, just the way that this world apparently went, in that, like, if we'll just use science and evolution. So his world is just complete fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, he created
Right.
it what he wanted. But if anybody else was going to take the work and be like, well, if we really do apply it, then this would make more sense, and let's just do it this way, and then we can have a multicultural. I mean, a multicultural is actually not a good word because the characters are already multicultural.
Right.
They have cultures. They are 5, 6 different races of people. It's us. It's the multi-ethnicity. It's the
Right.
multiracial type thing. So, but so anyway, yeah. If they do that, that's fine. But these people on the internet need to stop being racist because they just sound so whiny. They sound hella whiny, and it's like, y'all need to stop saying this stuff out loud. Like, just y'all
No,
need to
please say it so I
please
can
continue.
that allows me to know who you are and I can avoid you at all costs.
Oh
So
my god, I need to
yes.
stop like randomly seeing your videos. Like I'm like, oh, I like this topic of whatever. It could be like whatever. Like I was like, even with Cowboy Bebop stuff, I was like, oh yeah, let me watch this video. Somebody was saying this about Cowboy Bebop, and then I was like, oh, you're actually racist. Let me turn this because like stuff I didn't know. And then they start talking about the woke media, liberal media. They start going off, and they're like, and I'm like, yo, I can't watch you anymore, and I got to turn that off. And that's anyway. Amazon, please do a good job. I just don't want you to screw us over like you did with Wheel of Time because I'm sorry, Wheel of Time was trash, and
Yep.
I just got to say
And I
that.
and I haven't even seen it yet. I just the vibe that Tess is giving off of Will of Time is that it's really bad apparently. So yeah,
If
I
you
need
like
you to
special effects, then that's not the like you will be very disappointed. I'm like, so it was that hard for
Yo.
you to make a monster, or it was that like do you oh this is okay, and then I'll stop, and then I'll stop dogging them. You remember Windows 95, right?
Yeah. Oh God.
You remember the what's it called? Saves the screensaver.
Yeah.
You remember that liney thing, the thing that changed colors, the lines?
Right.
It looks like they have that on the show. Like it's that kind of graphics that's coming out of people's hands.
Yeah, I'm not watching. I'm not. I'm not watching. I can't. Yeah. And you know what? It's usually, and I guess when you tackle some of these shows, you are like, for instance, if you were to make an X-Men show, you
Mhm.
can't not have special effects,
Yeah.
right? But ideally, you want to stay within your budget. If your
Yeah.
budget is only a certain amount, then it's like, okay, we gotta stretch and do what we can because you can make something look really good with the budget.
Yeah.
If you try to stay within your means, if you try to go outside and be like, okay, we need real lightning effects, we ain't got that money though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna look as good. I don't know because Amazon has a lot of money, so I don't know what and this is Amazon for the most part has been pretty decent with their original content. I will say that like they've done well, not well enough to necessarily rival Netflix, and I think it's just because of timing. Netflix
Yeah.
has been around longer, HBO has been around longer, so when they get a hit show, they you know about it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't watch Stranger Things, you know about it. But so Amazon is kind of like jumping in on the on the later end of things, and so they'll have a good show, and it's like, oh wait, there's a Amazon has shows, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like that. So that being said, they've been doing it long enough to the point where they can start to really pump quality out. So I don't think the Wheel of Time should be should be looking any kind of way. Granted, I don't know the budget and I don't know who did what where because Netflix has had some shaky stuff too. Cowboy Bebop, one of them. So
Yeah.
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 Anywho, that is our show for tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us and listening to us ramble about different shows and different content. I do promise to talk a little bit more about video games. I know what you're thinking. I didn't talk about Microsoft buying Activision or Sony buying Bungie, and that's because it's late news at this point and everyone's talking about it. If you heard pretty much all the talking points, things are happening. Companies are being bought. That's all I got.
And Activision doesn't want their people to unionize.
Right. Which is horrible. Hopefully Microsoft is able to, keep that going or,
Yeah.
hopefully the if the merger does happen, that Microsoft doesn't derail any of the legal things that's happening, that the people who are responsible for whatever actually go to jail or get punished in some form or fashion that isn't just a slap on the wrist, pay a couple $1,000,000 because that's pennies to these people. So definitely that. And then also with Sony, I mean, they were talking about potentially doing Destiny films, stuff like that. So I'm down for that as long as the game isn't stuck on just Sony platforms, because that would suck with basically closing off your community when you have a game that's multiplayer that's on several different platforms and you
Mhm.
limit it in the future installments. You basically kill the community because they can't play with their friends anymore. And the fact that they have crossplay now, yeah, you really don't want to do that.
Mm.
But beyond that, I have nothing to say about it because again, everyone's talked about it, and I've actually said a lot on Twitter. So go join me over there at Kenny UFG, and we can kind of debate for like 5 seconds there. Beyond that, feel free to, if you're listening on YouTube, to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're aware of all the new content coming. And if you're not on YouTube, you're listening on Spotify or, and I know Spotify's going through something right now. We're on Spotify. Just it's okay. I don't even listen to Joe Rogan. But yeah, we're on
I knew you
Spotify.
were talking about Joe Rogan. I
Oh
didn't
my,
want to say anything.
because it's this thing where, and no shade to anyone, but there's this weird like holier than thou type of thing, as if these crazy giant companies don't have a stranglehold on just about everything in life,
Mhm.
to then look at people and be like, oh, disrupt everything you have going on because of something happened. Now granted, that's not to say that you can never leave Spotify, that we can never pull from Spotify, or the fact that Spotify can do no wrong. That's not what I'm saying, but at some point it's like, reasonable, be reasonable, understand, because a lot of you, if we were to switch the camera around, a lot of you are supporting some companies that have done some really racist stuff, and if we were to pull
Mhm.
those skeletons out of the closet, you will look silly. So how about we don't do that? Okay, okay, I'm not saying that I'm, super pro Spotify or anything, but I'm just saying we're on Spotify too. We're on
Yeah, we're there.
Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're
So,
also on iTunes. So wherever you want to follow, definitely do so. Add us to your RSS feeds, and also follow the cast on Twitter at the Gamecast1. Make sure you put that one there. So you're up on all the new content that's coming out. We're gonna be talking about a lot of cool stuff. Netflix has a lot of new movies coming out. I haven't even finished the movies that came out last year because it's just a lot. Although they have Knives Out 2 coming, so I'm definitely gonna watch that.
mhm.
And just yeah, I will be talking about more video game stuff. You have to understand, I talk about video game stuff all the time because I write about it. So this, the game cast, even though it's called game, we talk about a lot of anime and stuff like that because I kind of want to diversify my portfolio, if you will. Anybody see Chris Rock stand up? No? Okay. Anyways, and so that's why we don't talk about games as exclusively as you might think. This is all for the new listeners. But we will be talking a little bit more because there are some things that are happening, some moving and shaking within the industry. So we will be talking a little bit more about video games. Beyond that, I believe that's it for housekeeping.
I mean, I don't have anything. It's the same thing, guys. Just be nice to people. Don't be a dick. Don't be racist.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I feel like it's just hard to ask. People are gonna do you. You know what? Go do a racism, and then I'll stay away from
Wow. Do a racism.
it.
That's
I mean, that's what people do. Yeah, and I'll just keep my distance. But yeah, remember to wash your hands, wash your faces, wash your butts, and get your vaccines if you can, please. If you can't, try to stay away from me and others.
yes.
And please wear a mask. And don't listen to all the hype. Don't listen to Joe Rogan. just,
Yes,
just
please don't.
please wear a mask. And that's really it. So thanks for listening. I hope to catch you guys again next week or the week after. And that's really it. Thanks for listening. Bye.